Hello, this is Jim Nilsen, and today I'd like to demonstrate a really useful tool in Lightroom, and that is the adjustment brush, which is over here in Lightroom. One of the things about editing, when you get into editing your photos, is it's really nice to be able to do what we call selective editing versus global editing. Selective editing would be when you're just working on part of the image and changing just that. Global editing would be one major edit, like dragging the exposure down where it would affect the whole image. In this case, on this photo that I took out on the Washington coast, I really like what's going on here. I like the color palette, the composition. I really like these rocks in the foreground here. But I would also like to see a little more separation between the rocks and the sand. I want them to stand out a little bit more. And of course, selective editing is a lot more powerful in Photoshop, but this adjustment brush is very, very powerful tool to use in Lightroom. So I'm actually in the adjustment brush right now. It's active. You can see this palette here with all the different controls that you can do. And you can see it says done down here, which means it is active. So I actually did some painting in those rocks. And you see down here on the left, it says show selective mask overlay. And so what I did was I went in and did some painting on these rocks. My computer's a little slow. I think I need to upgrade. So when you do paint with this show selective mask overlay, it shows red here. And it's showing you that that area is now selective. So anything that you do over here in this control panel is going to affect just those rocks. So I'll show you one more rock here that I'll select, and that would be this one. And you can adjust the size of the brush with the brackets on your keyboard. So I'm just going to go in there and paint in that area on that rock. And being ever so careful to not go over into the sand. That's why I have it enlarged here. You can make a smaller brush too if you really want to get in there. Let's say that you did make a little mistake and go into the sand. You can come over here to erase and then back over here and erase that boo-boo out. It's pretty important to make your masks pretty precise because any edits you do that will bleed over into the sand, and it will be pretty noticeable. The whole idea about any kind of processing is to make it kind of not so obvious, which is a real challenge. It's really easy to go overboard. But if you, so I did the negative there. I'm going to make sure you go back to A here on the brush. And I'm going to get back into 100%. And now I can go down here and click off Show Selective Mask Overlay. I'm still active. And now I'm going to go and work on an adjustment just for that area. So I'm going to drag the exposure up a little bit, and you can see that that did quite a bit. I'll go back to history to show you what that did. My computer is slow. And I'm going to go to the color temperature, and I'm going to warm those up a little bit. Not too much, but you want it to stand out, but you don't want it to be glaring. And I actually think that's pretty good right there, so I'm just going to click Done and say OK. And I'm going to go back here and demonstrate before and after. We selected the first draft over here on the left. I took a snapshot of it. And there is the before. And bear with me here because things are kind of slow here this morning. And there's the after. So very useful tool. By going back and forth it does seem obvious, but if you just kind of looked at the image without comparing, it's not as obvious. So the healing brush, the adjustment brush in Lightroom is a very powerful tool.